For this lesson, you need to open the sample file phonebook1 from your sample files folder. This worksheet contains examples of international telephone numbers. The international telephone number contains a country code, an area code, and a phone number. The country code, sometimes called the international dialing code, is shown as a plus symbol followed by one or more numbers. In the case of Books A Million, you can see that the country code is +44, and in the case of Maltese Books, you can see that the country code is +356. Next comes the national direct dialing prefix, and that's shown in brackets. This is the access code used to make a call within the relevant country, but it's omitted when calling from outside the country. You can see that every telephone number in this list has an NDD of 0. Next comes the area code. Those are the numbers after the closing bracket, but before the hyphen. You can see in the case of Books A Million, the area code is 113, and in the case of Maltese Books, the area code is 2138. And finally, there's the phone number itself. And that's all of the numbers that appear after the hyphen. When you need to extract data from variable width character strings, such as these, things are a little more challenging because we need to identify the position of each data element within the string. We're going to do that in this lesson using the find function, and then we'll use the position of those strings in combination with the left, mid and len functions to extract the country code, area code and phone number. So let's begin by finding the first occurrence of an opening bracket within the telephone number. I'll click in cell C4, and to do this I'm going to use the find function. So formulas on the ribbon, function library text, and there's the find function. You can see that first I need to tell the find function which text it's looking for. Well, it's looking for an opening bracket, so I'll type in an opening bracket. You might wonder why I didn't put that in double quotation marks. That's because when I click on the next parameter, Excel does it automatically for me. And of course I'm going to look for that opening bracket within the telephone number. So I'll click on the telephone number in cell B4. And I can see at the bottom left of the dialog that the formula result is going to be 5. That's because if I count the positions, +44 space bracket, the bracket is at position 5 in the string. So I'll click OK to return 5, and I'll also autofill this down to the Malta number, and you can see that in the case of the Malta number, the opening bracket is at position 6. That's because the Maltese Books international dialing code of 356 has 3 digits instead of Books A Million's 44. Let's now find the position of the closing bracket in the string. So just as before, formulas function library text and find. This time I'm looking for a closing bracket and I'm looking for it within the telephone number. And I can see that the closing bracket is at position 7 for Books A Million, and if I autofill, it's at position 8 for Maltese Books. And now let's look for the hyphen. Once again, formulas function library text and find. I'm looking for a hyphen, and I'm looking for it within the telephone number. And I can see that this is in position 11 for Books A Million, and it's at position 13 in the case of Maltese Books. And finally, I need the length of the entire string. That's the number of characters that the string contains. You'll see in a moment why we're going to need this. So I'll click in cell F4, formulas function library text. There's the len function, just one argument, the string that we want the length in characters of. So I click on the telephone number, and I can see that the Books A Million telephone number is 18 characters long, whereas the Maltese telephone number is 17 characters long. Now that we've identified the position of each of those artifacts within the string, we can extract the country code, area code and phone number. Well, the country code is at the extreme left of the string, so it seems logical to use a left function. I'll click in cell G4, then formulas on the ribbon, function library, text, and the left function. There's two arguments for the left function. The first is text, the text string containing the characters you want to extract. Well, that's the phone number, of course, so I click on the phone number. And next, the number of characters I want to extract from the left-hand part of the string. Well, this varies, of course, but it's always the number of characters before the opening bracket. And I can see the position of the opening bracket in cell C4. So I'll click on cell C4, and then I'll pay close attention to the preview shown on the dialog, and I can see that this will extract +44 space opening bracket. And I don't want to extract the opening bracket, just the country code. So I'll need to just subtract 1 from the number of characters in order to do that. Now you might wonder why I don't extract 2, because that will also bring back +44 in this example. Well, that would work for all of the phone numbers listed here. But what would happen if a user added a phone number, but they didn't put a space between the international dialing code and the opening bracket? Well, in this case, everything would stop working. So using 1 instead of 2 will make my formula more resilient. I'll now click OK, and I can see +44 is being extracted for books 1,000,000, and if I autofill down, +356 is being extracted for Maltese books. Now let's move on to the area code. In the case of books 1,000,000, that will be 113. In order to extract that, I need to look in the middle of the string. So I know that I need to use a mid function. Formulas on the ribbon, function library, text, and there's the mid function. First of all, I'm asked for the text string from which you want to extract the characters. Well, that's the phone number, of course, so I'll click on the telephone number. Next, I'm asked for start number, the position of the first character I want to extract. Well, I want to extract the first character after the closing bracket. And I can see the position of the closing bracket in cell D4. So I'll click on D4 and I'll add 1 to it. Next, the number of characters I want to extract. Well, that would be the characters between the closing hyphen and the closing bracket. So I'll click on the position of hyphen in cell E4, and then I'll subtract the position of the closing bracket in cell D4. And once again, I'll pay close attention to the preview. It's 113 dash, and I don't want to extract the dash, just the 113. So the number of characters will need to be reduced by 1. Let's just add a -1 to the number of characters argument. And now I can see that I'm extracting the 113 area code that I need. So I click OK, there's the 113, autofill down, and I can see I'm also correctly extracting 2138 for Maltese books. Now the phone number itself. Well, I could do that in 2 ways. I could use a mid function, or I could use a right function. I think I'll use a mid function. So formulas, function library, text, and mid. The first argument, text, is the text string from which you want to extract the characters. Clearly that's the telephone number, so I'll click on the phone number. Next is the start num argument, the position of the first character you want to extract. Well, I want to extract the first character after the hyphen, and I have the position of the hyphen in cell E4, so I'll click on cell E4 and I'll add 1 to that hyphen position. And now the number of characters to extract. Well, this is where that length of entire string number will come in handy. because if I subtract the position of the hyphen from the length of the entire string, I should return the telephone number. So I'll click on length of entire string minus position of hyphen. And if I look at the preview on the dialog, I can see 4960227 is perfectly correct. So I click OK, and I've extracted the phone number for Books A Million, and if I autofill down one cell, I can see I'm also correctly extracting the phone number for Maltese Books. So I'm now confident to autofill all of these values down to the end of the range. And you can see that in every case, Excel has correctly extracted the country code, the area code, and the phone number. Now you could have made these formulas a lot more complicated. Let's take the country code in cell G4, for example. At the moment, it's referencing cell C4 that has the position of the opening bracket. So you could easily substitute C4 for everything that's currently in cell C4. In other words, the function that you're seeing here in the formula bar. But that would make the formula a lot more complex and error-prone. So I'm in favour of splitting the job up into small parts and working out all of the positions before I extract the text. Now you could argue that showing the position of all of those artifacts will be confusing for users. And you're quite right, but there's a simple solution. I'll just select the columns, right-click and hide them. And now the worksheet looks quite presentable. And all that remains for this lesson is to save your work. And I'm going to save with the new name Phone Book 2. And as usual, I'll save to the folder above my sample files folder. I click the Save button, and you've now completed Lesson 321, Extract Text from Delimited Strings using the Find and Len functions.